What's up, bitches? It's Rich at Review Tech USA, and yes, you're going to deal with one more video. Look at my fat candy corn finger. One more video like this one. And for the people out there that complain about me doing tech videos and kind of off-the-cuff PC videos, I've done them since my RLM audio days with my other YouTube channel back in the day. If you don't like them, I don't do misleading thumbnails or misleading titles. Don't watch them. They're not your bag. I'm doing 3 different, couldn't do them today because I ran into technical issues that are all resolved now. That's what this video is about. I'm doing 3 different E3 videos tomorrow. One on Nintendo, one on Sony, and one on Microsoft. Don't watch this video and watch them. Click the stop button now and go get some sleep because it's very late right now. You should be sleeping anyway if you're in the United States on the East Coast. Anyway, that was a lot of rambling. So, issues today had nothing to do with me overclocking. It's very interesting. So I still wanted to test my computer out, make sure everything was stable. Ran a bunch of errands today, and I was like, all right, let me run some Prime 95, see what happens. So I ran Prime 95, and it kept on failing. I'm like, oh no, I actually did something to my CPU. So here I am getting nervous. I'm like, all right, take a step back. And then I go to run memtest. Now my memory is 1600 megahertz DDR3 memory. So I run memtest and runs fine, no problems with the memory. So I'm like, what the hell? Okay, let me go run the CPU. Maybe it was just a hiccup with Prime 95, which is a pretty reliable program. If you want to stress test your CPU, run Prime 95. Go back in, run Prime 95 again, fails at the same exact spot again. Like, what the hell is going on? But I remembered something from a while back. Now, I just checked a few days ago. My memory, at least, is listed. My 8 gigabytes of RAM, my DDR3 RAM, is printed on there that it's supposed to be 1600 megahertz. But I remember my motherboard automatically set the RAM to 1333. So I'm like, that's curious. So I went back in, because I manually had it overclocked to 1600, which wasn't overclocked. My memory is supposed to be 1600 megahertz. And I downclocked it again to 1333. Ran Prime 95 again. Prime 95, when the memory was at 1333, ran like a dream. But my memory is supposed to be 1600 megahertz. So I was relieved that I knew it wasn't the processor. I was confused because memtest came back with flying colors, but Prime 95 wasn't happy with my RAM. So I did some research on the internet and found out that a lot of manufacturers, even reputable ones that manufacture RAM, will list the RAM as 1600 megahertz, even print on the RAM itself at 1600 megahertz on the sticker that's on the RAM, even if it's 1333, because they'll do a quick stress test of the RAM and be like, oh, even though it's 1333, it could run at 1600 megahertz. I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, I'm like, wow, that's not unethical at all. So what I did is I went into my BIOS again. I set the RAM at 1600 megahertz, and I just nudged up the voltage up to 1.6 volts. So it's at 1600 megahertz now, 1.6 volts. And then I went back into Prime 95. Once I upped the voltage, it was at 1600 megahertz. Ran like a dream. Prime 95 ran for hours with no problem. But it's weird. I'm like, this RAM is supposed to be 600 megahertz. Why do I have to up the voltage? And it's obviously there's no physical issues or any kind of hardware failures with the RAM, because if you adding more voltage to faulty RAM, it's blue screen central. Trust me, I've dealt with it many times before. Also, I was in the middle of writing down notes for Sony's conference. And I just got this, I'm like, you know what, I tested out all my hardware is working fine. I want this goddamn BIOS updated. So, what I did, now here's all the sticks that I tried, okay? Tried this USB thumb drive with QFlash, didn't work. Tried this one, the USB thumb drive didn't work. Tried this one. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I even tried floppies to update my BIOS. Nothing worked. So I go do some more research as I'm watching the video, because I get this bug. I want to really, like, just make my machine stable. And I'm reading that a lot of people had the same issue with QFlash. Then they would try a smaller drive, and it would work. This drive's 4 gigs. This one's 16. This one's 8. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, you understand, I spent the whole Sunday trying to update my BIOS. So I go and shuffle around and I find this. And so I unzip the newest BIOS for my motherboard directly to this. Plug it into this right here via USB. Finds the new BIOS, no problem. Updates it, flashes it like nothing was wrong. Buttery smooth. Took 3 minutes to update my BIOS. It just couldn't recognize anything over 2 gigabytes. So if you have a gigabyte motherboard, this is 2 gigabytes. My motherboard is gigabyte. And you're wondering why it won't see your BIOS update from your flash drive. It's probably because it's bigger than 2 gigabytes. Yeah, gigabyte, you need to fix that. But now everything's hunky-dory. I have the newest BIOS. My memory's working fine, my CPU's working fine, and I had to run a bunch of errands, and I watched Microsoft's E3 conference. That's what I was doing all day today. So I had to deal with some technical issues that are all resolved. Everything's smooth sailing. So tomorrow you will see 3 videos, one for Nintendo's E3 conference, one for Sony's, one for Microsoft. That's going to be working on tomorrow now that I got everything else here ironed out. So if you have, let's recap, if you have issues with your RAM, like say you're supposed to have 1600 megahertz RAM and it's not running stable at 1600 megahertz, the person that you purchased the RAM from, or the company, may be lying to you, and you may have to tweak your RAM to actually make it run properly at 1600 megahertz. And if you have a gigabyte motherboard with QFlash and you won't see any of your thumb drives, it's probably because they're bigger than 2 gigabytes, and it won't recognize anything bigger than 2 gigabytes. At least my 4 gigabyte stick. Maybe if you have another one, it'll work with it. But this stick does work fine in Windows. I could plug it in, but did not see it in QFlash. So find some SD card with an SD card reader, or find a 2 gigabyte flash drive, and that's how you update your BIOS. Use that to update it. Anyway guys, Rich Review Tech USA. I like putting these videos up because when I have problems and resolve them, I know there's other people out there with the same issues, and if I could help them, like there's some people's videos have helped me, hey man, you know, pay it forward. Alright, so ton of E3 stuff coming tomorrow. I'm glad I got all this stuff resolved. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good one.